What is going on, guys? This is Brian from Quantum Motor Works, bringing you guys another tutorial today. Right here in front of us we have a 2008 Honda CRF50F. This is a cool little bike, a little beginner's bike for most of younger kids to learn how to ride. So pretty much the reason why the customer is bringing us this one right here is he tried to get his bike started. I guess what he pretty much goes up to it, turns the fuel on. Go ahead and, he turns the fuel on and then, wait for it, pretty much the carburetor starts leaking. So he went ahead and he replaced the fuel valve thinking that that would make a difference. Sometimes when these fuel valves do leak, as long as the float level set okay, it still won't leak out of the carb. Not saying that if you were to drain the fuel out of here though, and then have this in the on-off position, if you had a bad fuel petcock, it would eventually fill up your carburetor, and then if you left gas in the tank and then came back a couple months later and tried to turn it on, it's a possibility your carburetor would be clogged up. So that would be the cons of having a bad fuel cock. Replacing it though, that's already one thing off the list. Another thing I did notice is the fuel does smell pretty bad still. He said he did wash it out pretty good. I can see he put the new fuel filter in there. Looks kind of a little green on the inside, so I'm guessing I don't know if he cleaned out the tank well, but we're gonna just go ahead and drain it a little bit more, add some fresh gas, maybe drain about half a tank to kind of get that clean, and then go ahead and remove the carburetor. Okay, let's go ahead and put gas in here. This California legal gas tank, these things suck. Oh, there's a cap on it. Let's see how this thing works. Ah, there we go. All right. So we got some gas in there. Shake her up just a little bit. So if you want to drain the gas kind of quick, if you're on the left-hand side of the bike, you look at this lower screw right here. This is the drain screw. You can go ahead and crack that loose and pretty much start draining the carburetor. Now as we wait for this to drain, we're just going to go ahead and look pretty much to get this carburetor out here. It's not too hard. Usually I'll start by removing this 10mm bolt here that holds in the air filter box, and there's this ground cable. And then after that, looks like on this one right here, we have some Allen screws. You might have some 8mm bolts. It all depends. This carburetor looks like it's been changed out before. So we're gonna go ahead and get some tools to go ahead and loosen these up and loosen up our 10mm bolt right there. And then we can go ahead and remove our carburetor. To speed things up, we just kind of disconnected our fuel line here, and we have a gas coming directly out of the petcock now. And you can go ahead, I usually place a pan underneath just to kind of catch all the old fuel, and then kind of shake the bike back and forth. That'll kind of help agitate whatever junk's on the inside of the tank. And the petcock does have a filter on it, so it's going to pull out most of that. But in this case, since we're not really charging the customer for a fuel tank clean or a fuel petcock inspection, we're just going to drain out whatever bad residual gas is in there and try to get some fresh, clean gas inside for when we replace our carburetor. Okay, so I like to start this off using a 10mm socket on a 1/4" drive with a 1/4" extension, about 6 inches long. That'll give you enough room to kind of go ahead and sneak up on that bolt right there. And it's kind of at a slight angle. Mine was fairly loose right here. So we'll just go ahead and take that all the way out. Looks like somebody's worked on this bike before. Had the carburetor out before. Okay. Airbox clamp would be usually on the lower side, but looks like it's been flipped around. Okay, so we'll use our longer Phillips screwdriver. Just kind of loosen that up. Looks like it was already kind of loose. You should be able to just kind of push it back a little bit, slide it off the carburetor. You really don't have to take the air box all the way out. You can kind of just slide it back like that, and that's going to give us enough room once we loosen up these two Allen bolts here. Go ahead and pull out the carburetor a little further. Okay, we have a slightly shortened 5mm hex or Allen. Let's go ahead and crack those bolts loose. Now, like I said, you might have an 8mm or might be 8 or 10mm screw heads depending on the year of your Honda. I don't think they normally come with these Allens here. That's not typical. But either way, you might want to use like a 1/4-inch drive just to get more easier access to it. Go ahead and pull those out. Okay, and now our carburetor should come out. You're going to want to grab that plastic insulator too. It's going to be right behind the carburetor. And looks like, I don't know, who knows if that was sealing. Probably put a little bit of gasket cinch on that. Okay, and at this part right here, pretty much want to shut off your fuel valve. I think that's enough fuel at this point. And then we'll just go ahead and disconnect our fuel line right here from the top. Okay, and then to get the carburetor off, you can also disconnect your drain line or just pull that out, because we're going to be replacing our carburetor with the new unit. And then just unscrew this cap here. That's what holds your throttle valve. And boom, just like that. Got the old carburetor out. And let's go ahead and take a look at our new carburetor. So from first look, they're practically the same. Some little minor differences on an aftermarket and the original key carburetor, but nonetheless, they're pretty much all still going to do the same thing. Looks like the adjust pilot mixture screw is a little jacked up on this one, so I'm pretty sure this carburetor is probably junk. And we're just going to go ahead and put this new one in. And so what we'll go ahead and do too is remove the original throttle valve. It's pretty easy. I just usually pull up the string here, and you can put a little bit of free play like how this guy right here, the throttle cable is already adjusted all the way, and looks like they tried taking it apart here. Not sure what's really going on, but we'll go ahead and tighten up this jam nut for him once we're done. But we'll go ahead and kind of pull this spring up right here. You just kind of pull the spring up and hold it with your finger, and then you can slide the throttle valve off. And then we're pretty much, this is the original, we're going to put that off to the side and leave this just like that. Your spring might come off. Let's see what this one comes with. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the new throttle valve and the spring, but we're going to go ahead and not use the new cap provider. We're going to go ahead and use this one. It should hopefully screw on just fine. And before we do so, we'll go ahead and spray just a little bit of contact cleaner or carburetor cleaner and just go ahead and clean that gasket sealing surface. It is important that that O-ring or gasket is intact. That's what's going to seal the top of the carburetor from air being sucked in. If you're missing that O-ring, it's not going to create a good seal, and it'll probably leak and your bike won't run right. Okay guys, we'll use just a little bit of carburetor clean. Just kind of rinse that out a little bit. Take a lint-free rag. Just kind of wipe off that surface, get all that gunk out of there. Okay. That's pretty much it. Now we can go ahead and grab our new spring. And I kind of fully collapse it and get the end of the cable out. Kind of pull the spring back and hold it. Then pretty simple. Just slide the piston over, put the cable through the hole or the gap, and then allow your spring to go in, and that's pretty much it. Then you can go ahead and get your new carburetor. And basically you can see there's two ends of it. We have the slot that we originally passed the cable through. That's going to go through this guide here that's on the side of the carburetor, it's going to be on the right hand side of the carburetor. So we'll go ahead and just slightly twist that, and then this sloped end right here, that's going to be what the contact idle adjustment screw makes contact with. So that's going to go on this side, and it really only goes in one way. It won't go in if you don't have it clocked in the right direction. Okay, very nice. Just nice hand tight on that, and that's pretty much it on replacing that. So now we'll just go ahead and prep our surfaces here and go ahead and wipe off the intake manifold piping. Just kind of wipe it down. Okay, it looks pretty good. Go ahead and our plastic insulator here, go ahead and wipe that down as well. And then we're going to go ahead and do one more thing too. I like to do this on all the new bikes that I do, but I'll usually put a little bit of gasket cinch on these surface here, just because they're kind of prone to vibration. On a little 50 like this, not a big deal, but when you start to get into the bigger so-called pit bikes that have the same intake manifold design, there is a lot of vibration. So I like to have a little bit extra sealing material to prevent air leaks on the carburetor. And from my experience, it just seems to make a little bit of a difference, and haven't ever had any problems using it. So looks like a little bit of the paint from the intake manifold was starting to transfer over here. Not a big deal though. As long as this O-ring right here is slightly protruding, it should make a good seal. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some gasket cinch, and then go ahead and lube these up and then stick it in. Okay, go ahead and grab a little bit of gasket cinch. And I like to use this stuff on old and new gaskets, O-rings. It works great. Doesn't make too much of a mess. Okay, that's good right there. We'll go ahead and put just a little bit on this O-ring as well. Okay, now at this point we can go ahead and reconnect our fuel line. And what I like about the gasket cinch is you can go ahead and place it, and it will kind of hold it in place there and give you just a little bit of time to grab your carburetor and go ahead and slide in and get your bolts in, go ahead and get everything hooked up without having to mess with it. So I'll usually just hold there for a couple seconds, let it kind of tack up to hold it in place, and then that'll give me a couple seconds to go ahead and try to get this carburetor in. Okay, so pretty much got it like that. Routing looks okay. We'll go ahead and grab a screw. Just kind of place one screw in and then kind of slowly start threading it in. Okay, so I kind of got both screws in right there. They're not all the way down, not all the way cinched up, but just good enough. So I'll go ahead and take our hoses here and just kind of route them. These are aftermarket, aftermarket carburetor, aftermarket hoses. So the hoses are typically going to be of a little bit thinner diameter. Let's see if there we go. So that kind of goes like that. Maybe we can cut that too, make that just a little shorter. And then this one right here, that's a vent. Oops. Goes right in there. And boom. Nice. So next step is I'll just kind of thread these in by hand here, now that we got the carburetor kind of lined up. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and just throw a ratchet on it. Go ahead and snug them up at this point. Nice and even. Okay, so that's on. So now we can go ahead and focus. I'm just pretty much sliding on this the air box there. And then the other thing too is we're going to go ahead and flip this over the air box clamp. That should be facing this direction towards us. Alright, cool. And then we can go ahead and just kind of slip it on. And then you want to make sure that bracket right there is up and over so you can get the screw through. So I'll just spray just a little bit of oil like that to kind of help guide it on sometimes. Oh, nice. There it is. Went on like butter. There we go. And you want to just basically line that up, and you can see your ground strap cable. Let's go ahead and pass your bolt through that ground strap cable, through the air box, and then into the frame hole. Okay, go ahead and screw in that 10mm bolt. Once you're just about to get fully cinched, go ahead and come back here, tighten up that clamp on the air box. Okay. Fully tighten our 10mm. Okay, nice and tight. Then what I like to do before putting the carburetor into service, I like to crack open this drain screw here. And then we'll go ahead and turn on the fuel valve. I just want to see a little bit of fuel come out first. And that's just to make sure if there was any crud, you know, it doesn't get trapped in there initially. It kind of gets flushed out. Okay. Then we'll go ahead and close up that drain screw. Okay. That's good. All right. So, moment of truth. Let's see if this thing fires up. So when you start this up, you're going to want to have a little screwdriver on hand, so that way you can make some adjustments to the idle adjustment screw, which is going to be located on the top, and then the bottom one's the pilot mixture screw. Let's just go ahead and take a look and see where we're at. We're going to turn it in clockwise carefully until it's fully seated, and count the turns while we're at it. So we're at half, one, about 1 1/4. So that's quarter, half, 1. So this carburetor right here from the China factory was set about 1 1/4 on the pilot mixture screw. And as you can see, choke, that's the off position. We're gonna go ahead and place the choke in the on position. We're gonna go ahead and try to kickstart this bike and see if it turns on. Okay. Let's see, this one doesn't have a key. Make sure the key is in the on position. Switch is in the run position. Go ahead and just kickstart it. Seems like one. Let's turn off the choke. Does it like the choke or no? Doesn't like the choke. Sounds pretty good. Nice little purr. So it looks like it kind of wants to go. The clutch isn't catching that, so that's a good sign. Maybe just a little bit higher on the idle. Buck doesn't. Clutch is kind of catching just a little bit. There we go. So besides those factors, I want to say that's what we're kind of running into with this carburetor. Trying to tune just perfect. I mean, that's probably about as good as it's gonna get. But yeah, should be good. Oh, and there we go. Shut off. That's what we don't want. So it turns on pretty easily. Let's go ahead and crank up the idle just a little bit more. All right, guys, I'm pretty happy with that right there. It doesn't shut off. Doesn't, you know, when you put it in gear, the idle's not high enough or the clutch is catching and starting to drag the bike, so it'll be good for little kids. Doesn't shut off, you know, when messing with the throttle while it's in gear. Doesn't have too much throttle hang. So those adjustments right there are going to be best. It's really hard to say. I actually went in just a little bit, so I think I want to say I'm at 1 3/4. What is that? It's 1 1/4. So I'm probably at like 3/4 of a turn out instead of being the 1 1/4. No, I'm at 1 full turn out. That's what that would be. 1 full turn out on the pilot mixer screw on this particular carburetor and how the engine's set up, and then I just adjusted the idle for, you know, those things that you saw me doing there. That's kind of how you tune one of these little 50cc automatic bikes. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and hit those comment boxes. Give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and like always, stay tuned for the next one. No, I broke my hip and 5 ribs. And by the time I hit like the 3rd one, bro, I got fucking, I just remember seeing like my legs in the air, and then like, I think I got ejected, dude.